Hi everyone, welcome back to yet another informative session by Cyber Preserve. Today we are going to talk in detail about building a vulnerability management program, and for that we have security expert Chintan Gurjar with us, and I'm not going to waste our time further. So Chintan, hand it over to you. Welcome back, welcome to our channel. We are so happy and delighted to have you, and I'm very much excited for your session. So please go ahead and start the session.
Hi Asta, thanks for having me on your channel and thanks for your introduction. So I'm really excited to speak on the vulnerability management program. So basically, I will be demystifying the vulnerability management program for many of those who are beginner in this industry, as well as this talk is also targeted to people who are entering into the manager level role, starting from their assistant manager role and so on. So I'll be demystifying what is vulnerability management and how that is different compared to vulnerability scanning, vulnerability assessment, and patching. So basically, the main understanding of vulnerability management program is vulnerability scanning. If you combine the vulnerability scanning, assessment, and patching, that becomes your vulnerability management because here you are managing entire activities or the multiple activities. You are not just doing one single activity. So I'm going to explain that in detail. So before moving forward, a bit of about me. So I have 8 years of experience in cybersecurity industry, and I started my career as a penetration tester, and then I slowly moved to DevSecOps and management, and then I like to keep I like to cope up with the latest trends in the cybersecurity. So I decided to further advance my career in the threat hunting and threat intelligence domain. And right now I'm working with one of the big four as a security manager, and I'm handling the security management for them. I have created multiple checklists and mind maps on the LinkedIn. I have shared that, and those mind maps and checklists are ranging from AppSec to threat hunting and threat intelligence and everything. I have a 0 day on my name. I found that in Sophos UTM, a couple of certifications from Blue Team department as well as Red Team. I have been a co-trainer of one of the Norwegian cybersecurity conference where I train our uh, candidates on the mobile application security. I post graduated from the UK, specialized in cybersecurity. I did my post graduation from the University of Bedfordshire, and these are some of my statistics as of now. That includes my 8 years of industry experience. So let's start with the topic vulnerability management. And so I have divided the entire talk in four sessions. So basically four different parts. So for the first part, I'll be explaining what is vulnerability management and how it is different compared to vulnerability scanning, vulnerability assessment. And, and so once you know the basics, and let's say if you want to start the vulnerability management department within your own company, then there are three steps that you need to follow. And so I'll be explaining all these three steps in very detail. So the step one would be identifying the source of vulnerabilities. So again, I'll be explaining that vulnerability management is an entire program. It's not a task of a single person or a single tool or single solution, right? So in the step one, I'll be explaining what are the key requirements of vulnerability source identification. In the second step, once we have all those vulnerabilities identified from different various sources, how you can prioritize the vulnerabilities in terms of remediation and patching, and how you can eliminate the false positives and identify the legitimate vulnerabilities. And the step three, what are the remediation options companies can go for? Are there any options apart from like standard patches, and how frequently they should patch and everything? So I'll be explaining the entire thing during my talk. So before that, let's start with some basics. So what is vulnerability scanning? So vulnerability scanning, as you know, you all have done that in your career. So it's a single activity. It can accomplish by a tool or a multiple tools. Let's say Equinetics, NetSparker, Qualys, and Core Impact. And so these kind of tools you can utilize in order to, scan your assets. Once you scan your assets, they give you the results and the vulnerabilities. They are ranging from high, low, medium, and critical. So this is a single activity. Okay, this is an automated activity, and your goal is to identify vulnerabilities in the assets. So once you identify the vulnerabilities in the assets, then the human analyst comes, only my human analyst come into the picture, and then they evaluate the result of the vulnerability scanners, and then they identify what are the false positive vulnerabilities, what are the legitimate vulnerabilities, and how you can define whether whether this vulnerability is rated high by the vulnerability scanner. But according to their infrastructure, according to their organization, whether that vulnerability is actually high or actually low. So they do these kind of assessment. It requires skills, technical skills in the vulnerability assessment. And so vulnerability assessment means there are multiple activities carried by multiple people, mostly analysts, and they do the scanning and they do the assessment, and it's a combination of automated and manual process, and it can take up to days or maybe hours, depending upon how many assets you are going to evaluate in terms of vulnerability assessment. And your goal is to identify legitimate vulnerabilities, then reduce the noise of the false positives, and you have to assign the urgencies in order to remediate the vulnerabilities. When I say assign the urgencies, I'll be explaining that in detail in the later slides. So vulnerability management is an entire division. So when I say division, so if you know that if there is any product-based company, let's say Google, Amazon, they have their own security department. So that security department is not just a single entity. Within the security department, they have associate department, they have threat intelligence department, threat hunting department, and they have, let's say, incident management department, forensics department. So likewise, vulnerability management can be also a single separate department within which there are multiple people ranging from analysts, engineers, assistant managers, and managers, and they do multiple activities in order to identify vulnerabilities of their organization from various sources, and then they put all the vulnerabilities at one place, and then they do the assessment, and then they come up with a result that okay, these are the high vulnerabilities, these are the low vulnerabilities. We should patch this, and we should patch this. How we should patch this? Then you have to give that vulnerability list to the different asset owners. What are the asset owners? I'll be explaining that in the later slide. So my so the entire conclusion is vulnerability management is a division, it's a department, it's a program of multiple processes with multiple people, right? This is not a single scanning activity. I'm talking about the entire division. So if you want to set up, let's say there are two type of companies, either they have the vulnerability management program or they don't. If they have the vulnerability management program, then how can they uh, you know uh, actually increase the effectiveness or increase the measurement of the vulnerability management skill, right? So either they have the vulnerability management program, then they have to improvise the vulnerability management program in order to reduce the number of vulnerabilities that they are getting on a yearly basis or on a 6 monthly basis. Or let's say if there is a company they don't have the vulnerability management program, then they can take this talk as an initial thing to start the vulnerability management program. So this program, vulnerability management program, or let's say division, when you are trying to set up, it's not a one-time go setup. Once you set up it, it's a continuous process of identifying vulnerabilities on a regular basis, because new assets come every time, new applications we develop every time, new threats come every time. So we have, this is a continuous program, and your goal, once you set up this program, your goal to maintain an ongoing program which helps organization to identify and mitigating vulnerabilities. When I talk about the mitigating vulnerabilities, I'm also talking about the external vulnerabilities as well as internal vulnerabilities, right? So I'm going to explain how you can identify the source of vulnerabilities in a later slide. So what is the difference between vulnerability scanning and penetration testing? So again, I'm talking about the vulnerability management, but the core of the vulnerability management starts from the vulnerability scanning. So this is the reason that I'm explaining about this slide. So obviously many of you know about this slide. So you know what is vulnerability scanning. It's a single activity fulfilled by automated scanners. It identifies the vulnerability. Then human analyst comes into the picture, and they assess the results of the vulnerability scanners, and then they define these are the actual vulnerabilities that are affecting their organization. Uh, so once they review the results of the vulnerability scanner, then they decide whether these are the vulnerabilities that are affecting to their organization, but they don't actually go ahead and penetrate those vulnerabilities. So that's where penetration testing comes into the picture, because they simulate the actions of real attacker. So once they identify the vulnerability, they try to exploit that vulnerability with the help of exploitation tools in order to find the real impact of that vulnerability. So maybe they will exploit the vulnerability in order to identify the crown jewels of that organization. They can also identify whether after exploiting this vulnerability, how and what other assets they can target using this vulnerability. So that's where penetration testing comes into the picture, right? So it's about let's consider a real life example. For example, if I'm a thief and I want to steal something from someone's house, okay, I will do the vulnerability scanning from outside, okay, and then I will find, okay, so there are these are the gates and these are the windows that are open. So I found the vulnerability, right? But from far see, I can sense that these are the doors and windows are open. But if I go and check whether those doors and windows are open, that's called the vulnerability assessment. Okay, so that's where the vulnerability scanning and vulnerability assessment lies. But if I actually go inside the house and if I steal something and come out, that's called penetration testing, right? So this is a difference between vulnerability scanning, vulnerability assessment, and penetration testing. Now let's talk about the vulnerability management process. So it basically covers all these factors, and it's a life cycle of vulnerability management process, and it's a continuous life cycle. So in the first section, we discover the assets. So I'm going to talk about the assets in the later slide in detail. So once we have the assets, we prioritize what assets are really needed in terms of vulnerability scanning and assessment, and what assets are having a high priority or low priority. So once we identify the priority, we do scanning and assessment. Once we do scanning and assessment, we write the report, and then we go for the patching and the verification. So verification, there are like two types of verification in the vulnerability management. So first verification, whether the vulnerability exists or not after we patch thing. And the second verification is once we deploy the patch, whether that patch actually got deployed or not, or were there any issues or not. So this is the life cycle of the vulnerability management program. So what are the steps involved in the vulnerability management program? So let's start with the basic. So first we prepare the inventory list. So what is the inventory list? I'm going to show the example of the inventory list later on. So inventory list, let's consider you work in a product-based company and there are different teams within the product-based companies. For example, there is a development team, there is a networking team, there is an infrastructure team, there is a HR team, and so on, right? So you get the inventory from these different teams about how many systems they are handling within that team. For example, if development team comes and say, okay, we are having like 20 systems, and these are the laptops, these are the servers, these are the external facing IP addresses and websites, and these are our cloud servers, and these are our S3 buckets and everything. So you get that list of the inventory. The same way, you can ask the networking team, and networking team will give you this similar kind of inventory, and they will have their IP addresses. These are the routers, switches, these are the IDS, IPS, firewalls, and these are the IP address of that. Then you go for the infrastructure team, and they will also provide their own inventory list. So once you get all the inventory list, make sure that inventory list is updated and upgraded. So for example, if the development team is giving you the inventory list, but that inventory list hasn't been updated since last 6 months, so you may miss some of those assets which they haven't updated in that inventory list. So as a vulnerability manager, it's my task to evaluate whether this inventory list is accurate or not. If that is not accurate, and if I miss any host, and tomorrow if any vulnerability is exploited on the system, then solely the entire team would be responsible for it. So you get the inventory list and then you perform all these activities. So today we are going to focus about vulnerability scanning, because within the vulnerability management, the bigger picture, bigger part is being played by the vulnerability scanning tools and solutions. But apart from that, when you set up this vulnerability management program, and later on, if you try to mature the vulnerability management program, then you would require to include all these different activities into the single vulnerability management program. I'm going to talk about how you can do that in a later slide. So once you perform all these activities and you get the result of the vulnerability scanning tools or these activities, then your human analyst comes into the picture, and they do the assessment, they define the priorities, and they show the results on the dashboard that these are the high vulnerabilities, these are the low vulnerabilities, and these are the active vulnerabilities, these are the false positive vulnerabilities, and these are the vulnerabilities with high severity risks. But those high severity risk vulnerabilities are affecting the HR system or the support system, which according to us are the low priority systems. So basically we are marking them as a low priority risk and all. So that analytical dashboard displays everything, the holistic view of your organization, threat or the risk, right? And then you get that information and you share with the asset owners. So what are the asset owners? So asset owners are the different project managers or different department heads from which you get the inventory list, and you give that information to them. So you are not giving the entire information to them, but let's say if I have the single dashboard which shows all the vulnerabilities related to application, network, and infrastructure. So I'll be only extracting the application vulnerability information, and then I'll be sharing with the application development team manager who will be responsible for patching all those vulnerabilities in the application and server. Similarly, I will also extract the vulnerabilities from the networking devices, and I will share it with the networking team so that they can go ahead and patch those things in the routers and servers, right? So it's called the dissemination of the vulnerability. So basically, you are sharing the information with other different asset owners, and then they will go for the patching. So they will evaluate all the options for patching. I'll be explaining in the later slide what all options are patching. So normally we know that there are a few options like official patch being released by the official vendors. So that what if they don't release the official patch, okay, and still there is a vulnerability in your infrastructure, how you can go ahead and patch it. I'll be explaining that in detail in the later slide. So once they patch everything, then it's their responsibility to test whether the patching has been done successfully or not, and once it is done successfully, then that process ends, okay. And then you may require to do the retesting or not, depending upon your vulnerability management program lifecycle. Okay, so when I talk about this thing, so you may feel that this is very straightforward thing, but it's not a straightforward thing because a lot of activities are involved, a lot of people are involved, and within the vulnerability management, even there are managers, directors, analysts, engineers, and you are also sharing all this information with different asset owners within your same company. You may also require to share this information with outside of your organization with different third party owners, and they may require to do some kind of patching. It depends. So because this is a combined program of multiple people and multiple processes, it's not a single task, and that is why there are jobs in this domain around the world. Specifically in the vulnerability management, these are the specific jobs that are being available on the planet. So if you notice one thing, most of the jobs are pertaining to product-based companies, right? So basically, if I have a product-based company, let's say I have a retail company and I have like 4,000 employees, or let's say 5,000 employees, and I have like 10,000 systems and everything, then I need to have a vulnerability management program, and I need to have a dedicated team who would handle the vulnerability identification and remediation and patching responsibilities. And that is why there are separate jobs around the world. So it's a one good area to explore apart from your traditional cybersecurity areas like penetration testing and other things like SOC and threat intelligence. So there are so many areas in the cybersecurity, and this is also one of the good areas. So if you try to make your career in this domain, then ideally product-based companies would be a good preference for you. So what skills are required for this domain? So cybersecurity expertise, obviously, we should have the technical understanding of threat sector, and not only that, but as a cybersecurity expert, you should be updated in the market, and you should get the latest knowledge about the threats and exploitation tools and new vulnerabilities coming into the market. And this would also require the documentation skills because you will be creating a couple of documentation for the stakeholders. When I say stakeholders, then it means your senior stakeholders as well as your junior stakeholders. For example, if analyst or security engineer does the scan and they present you with a technical report, now you cannot present that technical report to your manager, who is a CISO or the head of security, or you cannot present that information to different asset owner because that's too technical for them. So you need to convert that technical bits into non-technical, but still the idea of that report should be the same, that they should understand that what I'm telling to them. Okay, so documentation skills are really required, and the culture, because as I told you, you are a support team member, you are managing your team, you are managing your senior stakeholder, also you are talking to different asset owners, so you would need to be supportive team member, and coordination is really needed because you should have an ability to work with the various resources across IT and vendor application. For example, my company decides to go for a Qualys or let's say Nessus. So I'm having those on my organization. I have implemented that. I'm using them. But let's say after 6 months, there are some new solutions are coming into the market. Then, then I should have an ability to evaluate those vendors and even coordinate with those vendors and get the training or get the understanding of the solution and then present that thing to my senior head in order to identify whether we should go for that those kind of solutions or not. And communication is the key because, as I told you, you are talking to your seniors, you are talking to different asset owners, and every individual or every team comes with a different technical background. So you should have that communication skill in order to explain them the threat scenario, the vulnerability management scenario. So transparent communication is the key in the vulnerability management, and you should have the analytical skill because ability to assess the risk related to vulnerabilities and recommendation. So apart from the vulnerabilities identification and the patching, you should have that analytical skills that, for example, once you manage the program, once you develop the program, after 6 months, you should do the analytical assessment. For example, before 6 months ago, we had X percentage of the vulnerability, but now we have Y percentage of vulnerability, and X dash percentage of vulnerability has been reduced or increased. So you should have that analytical skills to measure the success criteria of the vulnerability management program. And pentest and red teaming expertise. So once you identify the vulnerabilities from different sources, as I mentioned to you, different sources does not mean only the vulnerability scanning. The different sources means that red teaming, open source, and all those things. So once you identify those things, you should have that in-depth knowledge that how attackers will use different tools and processes in order to exploit your organization if this particular vulnerability is affected. Okay, so the ideal team structure would be like this. I'm not saying this is the exact team structure, but this is the kind of similar team structure you would get if you're going in this domain within the product-based company. So there would be a CISO or head of security under which there would be directors and senior managers and senior security engineering managers. And security engineering managers will handle the security engineer and analyst. Okay, so now it's really essential for us to understand the difference between the engineer and analyst. So what is the engineer and analyst? You might have heard about different roles in security engineer, security analyst, but I'm also sure that you might have heard about the security engineer roles in product-based companies compared to more of a consulting companies. So engineer and analyst. So basic difference is the offense and defense. So analyst works mostly on the offense side, where engineer works mostly on the defense side. But so engineer build things where analysts break things and examine things. So the task of the engineer is to create solutions and implement solutions where analysts would assess the resilience of those solutions. They will test the solutions whether those are up to the mark or not. And engineers' task is to evaluate the problems and research solution, where analysts will do the technical security assessment and they will propose a remediation option. So when I say engineers will evaluate problems and research solution, for example, if I have a vulnerability management program, but that program is not up to the mark, it is not giving me the ideal result, then it's the engineer's job and engineering manager's job to identify what are the key things that we are lacking in and how we can do the analysis and research on the market and how we can come up with the solution that can overcome these problems. So that's called research solution and evaluate problems and research solution. So engineers leverage security solution, configure them and deploy them, and analysts leverage security scanning and pen test tools to identify weaknesses. So when I say leverage security solutions and configure and deploy them, it means once my company identifies that we are going with the Qualys, so we are going with the Nessus, then it's engineer's job to get the training from those official vendors and deploy them and customize them based on my organization need and based on my security engineering team's requirement. So these are the basic difference between engineer and analyst. So basic skills are required: operational vulnerability analysis for engineer, incident response, real-time network analysis, red team pen test experience, and analyst skills. You are already aware of that. They would require the extensive knowledge of testing and different tools available in the market in order to exploit the vulnerabilities and test the vulnerabilities. So this is the difference between the engineer and the analyst. So there are a variety of vulnerability scanners in the market: Qualys, Beyond Trust, Nessus, AppSecure, Nexpose from Rapid7, and Beyond Security, and so on. OpenVAS is an open source vulnerability assessment system. So you can choose any of them. Based on that, you would build your vulnerability management program. So out of so many vulnerability scanners and vulnerability management solution, how we can go ahead and choose the best vendor for us. So I'm going to give you the evaluation criteria in the later slide so that you can go ahead and choose the best vendor for your organization's need. Okay. So vulnerability management enterprise architecture. So once you have decided to build your vulnerability management program, so later on in the design requirement, it would look something like this. So let's say there are uh, scan jobs from Nessus scanner. Let's say it can be a Nessus, or it can be a Nessus, or it can be a Qualys. I'll just check whether my charging is running or not. Oh, perfect. Yeah. So let's say there are Nessus and Qualys. Scanner appliances are there. It can be hardware, it can be on premises, or it can be the cloud based. And then you configure those scanner appliances with your custom dashboard. So this VM manager and dashboard is your organization's custom dashboard where you would integrate the result of different vulnerability scanner. So let's say I have Nessus here, I have Qualys here, and I want a single dashboard which shows both the vulnerabilities. So within the custom dashboard, you can do so many things. Let's say Nessus is giving 10,000 results and Qualys is giving 5,000 results, but I want the list of issues identified only particular for this IP, whether regardless of Nessus or Qualys. So you can just give that IP address and it will list all the vulnerabilities from the Nessus and Qualys. Let's say you want to only identify vulnerabilities related to SSL scan, right? Regardless of IP address, regardless of Qualys and Nessus. So you would give that keyword and it will identify all those, it will filter all those things for you. So that's where your custom vulnerability manager dashboard comes into the picture. So that custom vulnerability manager dashboard is also a point to trigger the vulnerability scanners in order to start the scanning. So let's say I can tick on the Nessus scanner that okay, you go ahead and start scanning the Office Zone 1 in the USA. I can just trigger the Nessus scanner and you go ahead and start the scanning for the Office 2 in UK. So they will start the scanning for the same. I can also pause and stop the scanning from the custom vulnerability manager dashboard apart from the original Nessus or Qualys appliances are there. So I can also do that from there, but it would be really mature program to have this kind of configuration where you can do everything centralized in the centralized dashboard, right? So once they start scanning, once they get the result, then there is one more thing. As I told you, if you want to identify the source of vulnerability, then scanning is not the only one option, right? You can identify vulnerabilities from the source code review, time trace, and security incidents and on. So, for example, let's say Nessus scan is in progress and they are also displaying their results on the custom dashboard, but at the same time, my different team in the organization, they are also doing pentest and security code review. Then they should be able to upload their findings on this custom dashboard by selecting IP addresses or by selecting the asset. So next time when I go and filter that I want the IP, I want this IP address to list all those vulnerabilities associated with them. Then it will also show results from the pentest or from the security code review as well as the Nessus scanner results and the policy results, right? So you can integrate all of them into a single dashboard, and that single dashboard gives you the power of filtering things, right? And it saves a lot of time, right? So once you get all these things on the customized dashboard, then that dashboard is being handled by vulnerability management department, mostly analysts, engineers, and managers. And then they will take the information and start assessing what is critical, what is not, and then they will take the information and disseminate those information to different teams for the remediation options and all. So basically, in order to implement the entire program, there are basically four main sections. So first is design, develop, then you deploy, and then you operate and maintain. Right. So let's start with the design. So now I want to clear one thing that I'm talking about the building a vulnerability management program, and this is an entire program. This cannot be explained within 1 hour of session. So I'm going to quickly give you the list of the activities in order to build this program. But each activity that I'm going to list, it takes more than 1 hour to explain how actually you can go ahead and do that. So because the limitation of the time, I'm just going to give you the list of activity and I'm going to give you the overview of that thing, right? So let's start with the design. So the goal of the design phase is to get the requirement gathering for business and finance and defining program goals. So basically, you either you have the vulnerability management program or you don't have, but then you have to create the requirement gathering that okay, we are facing this kind of issues, we are having a number of vulnerabilities, and that's why we need to build a vulnerability management program. Because if we do that, these are our end goals, like defining program goals. So these are our end goals. We want to reach over there, and these are the problems that we are facing. So if we reach over there, we won't have any problems, right? So this is the kind of goal should be in your design phase. So review the need of the business for this program. As I mentioned, that why do you need a vulnerability management program? Let's say if everything is going fine, but that does not mean that you should not have vulnerability management program, because prevention is better than cure. Okay, but in the most scenarios, when companies go ahead and try to build a security solutions or the vulnerability management department, when they face some kind of incidents, right? So review the need of the business. Why do you want to build that? What are the current scenarios which guided you to build this vulnerability management program? And then give you the compliance requirement as well. For example, if you're a large retail company and you decide to build a vulnerability management program by your own, okay, so you would follow the best practices that are in the market. But apart from that, because you're in retail business, you may go ahead and get the ISO certification, or let's say a PCI DSS certification. So, are there any specific requirements from those certification authorities in order to have the complete and mature program of your vulnerability management? If yes, then you would gather those requirements as well, apart from what you are going to build, and you would have to map. Okay, this is our criteria of building a successful vulnerability management program from our need as well as the compliance need. Okay. So then you create the master asset inventory. So I already explained what is asset inventory. I'm going to give you a small example. So your master asset inventory would look something like this. So it should have the asset number, asset serial number. So this is the one of the example that I got from the Google, but it does not mean that you should have only this format. It could be uh, you could create your own format, but it should give you the clear idea of what this asset is doing, on which location it is, and who is the asset owner. So assigned to is the asset owner, what is the vendor, and when did we purchase it, and when it's going to be ended and all. Also, also, if we talk about the IT asset inventory, then it should have the IP address of that asset, if that is in the network or not. I'm not talking about the assets like physical device like mouse and headphones and those kind of things. I'm talking about the assets that are currently in your domain, organization domain, right? So you can create this kind of asset inventory by getting the separate asset inventories from different departments. Um, so let's say if there is a department they do not maintain the asset inventory, okay. So you can ask them to create the asset inventory, but at the same time, you have security engineer and analyst sitting in your vulnerability management division, so they can go ahead and try finding all those assets associated with that department by doing some monitoring within your network. So there are range of activities that you can do in order to identify the assets for that department or for any particular department, and then you can go ahead and give that inventory list to that department and ask them to verify whether this is okay or not, whether you want to add any asset, whether you want to remove any assets or not. So likewise, you can create the master asset inventory, and then you, based on that, you can prioritize the assets based on the criticality and risk. For example, let's say HR system or the support system would not store any kind of sensitive data of your customers, right? So you don't need to put those assets in the high priority in order to scan those every month or let's say every week and all. Okay, and there are some system, let's say database servers and let's say systems that are holding the database or personal information of your users, then you would require them to give the high priority, high criticality assets. Okay, so a special attention should be given to those kind of assets in order to maintain the security of those assets, because if those assets are attacked, then there is a large stake of information which is at risk, right? Then you decide which assets to be included in the scope, which not. So for example, let's say you have a vulnerability management program, but your vulnerability management program is not mature enough to include penetration testing, open source monitoring, and all other activities into the single dashboard. But you have only simple single solution of vulnerability scanning, right? Then that vulnerability scanner is not supporting, let's say, IoT devices. Let's say they are not supporting cloud servers. So how you can, so what to be included in the vulnerability scanning and what not is depending upon what you have in terms of vulnerability scanning, and also it depends on the criticality and risk of the vulnerability. So let's say there is a single system which is pertaining to support ticket, and that system is not in the domain, and that system is not external facing, right? And that system is also segregated from the network zoning within your company. Then you don't need to include that system in your vulnerability scanning area, right? So compared to, you have so many systems to scan in your vulnerability management scope, right? So you can decide based on the criticality, risk, and what is supported and what is not supported. Then you define the roles and responsibilities, because as I told you, you're going to manage or you're going to build a vulnerability management program. So there are multiple people, multiple asset owner, multiple managers and directors are involved. So you would need to create the RISI matrix. So RISI matrix would look something like this. So RISI would look something like this. Uh, so basically, the list of the security policies are and all. So this is one of the example of ISO 27002 2013. So RISI stands for RASCI. So responsible, accountable, supportive, consulted, and informed. For example, if let's just forget about this column, and let's just assume that identification of the vulnerability is one of the activity. Then information asset owner, staff, managing director, executive team. So for, let's say I'm just okay, let me just go ahead and edit this. Let's say identify vulnerabilities from different sources. Then for this activity, who should be consulted, who should be informed, who should be accountable. So for example, if something goes wrong with this particular activity, then who is accountable for this? So I think executive management is accountable for this one, right? So if they are accountable for this one, then it shows me a clear way whom should I contact in order to in order to ask them something, or in order to find what is going wrong and all. So there are list of people who would be list of departments and list of people who would be managing the vulnerability management division, and there are the list of activities over here. And for each activity, you would need to define the RISI matrix. For example, who will be responsible, who will be supportive, who will be consulted, and all, right? So these are the things you can include in your RISI matrix, and this is again one more example of the RISI matrix, but you can find so many templates on the RISI matrix on Google, right? So then you have to communicate with the different stakeholders on the requirement, project details, and timeframe. So for example, let's say I'm building a vulnerability management program, and now I reach to that phase where I have the asset inventory and everything, which I created. Now it's my duty to inform the different asset owners that I'm going to perform this activity, which may take XYZ amount of time, and it may cause XYZ project hurdles. For example, if I want to start the vulnerability scanning for the assets that are pertaining to development team, then I need to go with and inform the development manager that okay, I have the list of assets from your team, and I'm going to perform the vulnerability scanning on that, and it would take, let's say, 4 hours, and you may find a more of a network bandwidth. You may find a more of a network bandwidth while we are scanning all those things, right? So there has to be a transparent communication before you start the activity, during you perform that activity, and after the activity results. So that's why communication with the stakeholders on this requirement is really crucial. I'm not only talking about the asset owner, but also I'm talking about the your senior managers and directors and CISO. That okay, now we have this and we are going to do this and we are going to do this. So that is the thing. Then you measure the success criteria. For example, before starting the activity, you have to define the goals. So when I say goals, then goals should be measurable, right? So for example, let's say if I want to reach there from A to B, right? So let's say if I reach to B, how will I measure my success criteria, right? So the basic example is if I reach there, then I should be taking picture that I reached to B level. I started from A, so this kind of thing. So in the vulnerability management, you have to define the success criteria. For example, right now the organization is having let's say 65% of the vulnerabilities that are reported from the external bounty hunters. So once we have the vulnerability management program, we identify vulnerabilities within the organization, and then we deploy these solutions, or let's say we deploy this application for the public use. So after 6 or 8 months, how much number of vulnerabilities that are reduced from that 60%. So once you define all these success criteria, then and milestone, then it's really good for your vulnerability management program, because if you're building something but you don't have an end goal, it does not make any sense. It's like good for having nothing, right? So then you create the once you have all these things in your requirement, then you create a vulnerability management strategy, time frame, and how many resources would be required. When I say resources, that also includes the technical solutions, hardware appliances, and people that would be required, and the compliance requirement and the goals and everything. So once you complete the design phase, then you calculate the budget and get it approved by the management. So your management would be the head of security or CISO, and in order to get your budget approved, you would have to convince them why we are building this and what is our success criteria. So that success criteria is not only dependent upon how many numbers of vulnerabilities you reduce. That also depends how much number of dollars that you saved by implementing this entire program, right? So because if you're talking about the CISO, head of security, and the CFO, chief financial officer, so when you go ahead and get it approved, your budget for the vulnerability management or for any division, they talk in dollars, right? They want to know the benefit. They want to know what are the success criteria, how much money they are saving. So if they don't get it, they won't approve your budget, and you won't be able to implement this solution, right? Then second phase is development. Your end goal should be technical requirement gathering, and you would evaluate the different vendors in the market, and you would choose the best vendor. And how you would do that, that I'm going to explain in the next slide. So gather the technical requirement for the scanning tools, solutions, reporting methodologies, and all from the market. Let's say if you're talking about the scanning tools, there are agent-based scanning tools, there are agent-less scanning tools, there are on-premises scanning tools, there are cloud-based scanning tools, and there are also different reporting methodologies. There are reporting methodologies which is like centralized. There are C-level reporting methodologies. There are detailed technical level reporting methodologies. So different methodologies are there, and so you will need to get those technical requirements from the different vendors, and you have to compare them and then decide which solution is better for your organization. Right? Identify where automation can be done. So, for example, if I have the vulnerability management solution, what if I want to do the automation? For example, if I want to scan these assets on a regular 6 months of interval, 4 months of interval. Also, if once they identify this kind of vulnerabilities, what extra level of automation that I can do in order to identify the false positive and the legitimate vulnerabilities. For example, I've seen so many videos from the YouTube community where they are doing the port scan using the Nmap, as well as once they identify the ports which are open, they find the services automatically using the Nmap, and once they define the services, the import this result into the Metasploit, and Metasploit will run the auxiliary. And once Metasploit will run the auxiliary and exploit, it will give you the result whether this vulnerability can be exploited or not. So that is called automation. You are combining one process, second process, you are integrating them in order to perform the automation, right? And identify where process integration can be done. So when I talk about the integration, that means your security scanning solution, can it be integrated with any other SIEM solution, any other EDR solution, or any other support ticket solution. For example, a lot of companies using the Zendesk and service desk for the IT incidents and Zendesk for the supporting tickets. So can your security scanning solution be integrated with this kind of solution? For example, if there is a new vulnerability identified, let's say you don't have any vulnerabilities. Tomorrow, if there is one vulnerability you identified and that is pertaining to the development or the infrastructure team, so can your security solution directly email to the infrastructure team manager that the new vulnerability has been identified in your asset, and this is the asset information, this is the vulnerability information. So that level of integration and that level of automation is really good for the vulnerability management because it will save a lot of time. Identify resource requirement and evaluate the skill gap. So in order to build this program, you would require the human analysts and engineers. So you have to evaluate the skills gap, like what kind of penetration testing knowledge they should have, what kind of automation knowledge they should have, and have they worked on different vulnerability management solutions, have they worked with the exploitation tools and victiming tactics and all that. So you would require that. Then identify possible risk, hurdles, and exceptions. So for example, let's say if I'm scanning 10,000 IPs at once, will it impact my network bandwidth within the organization? Will it impact the production or let's say productivity of the softwares that other teams are developing, or the communication that are being happened? Let's say people are talking on Skype and Microsoft Teams, and I am doing a scanning at the same time, and then it will consume all the network bandwidth if I don't have a separate network for the scanning and all. So will it impact those kind of things, right? You would require to document all this risk, hurdles, and exception. When I call about the exception, for example, let's say if I buy a Qualys or an Nessus, and let's say they don't support the IoT devices, they don't support the S3 buckets. Okay, so I have 90% of the system that are being supported by this kind of scanners, but 10% of systems that are not supported by this kind of scanners, then those are the exceptions for me. And I have to record and I have to document those kind of exceptions because I will need to implement another solution for these kind of exception, and I also have to inform these kind of exceptions and hurdle to the senior managers, right? Then define the training program for the key individuals. So once you decide all these things and once you decide which mandate you want to go ahead with, then you take the training and then you give that training to your department, considering you have analysts and engineers, and train them on those solutions. Not only the solutions, not only the security scanning solution, but also train them on what processes you are following within your organization in order to comply with the best practices of the vulnerability management. So then you do the research on the various vendor and VM solution. As I told you, there are lots of vendors, Nessus, Qualys, Nexpose, and all. Then you do the research and then you evaluate the criteria. Then vendor evaluation criteria and factors. I'm going to talk about this in the next in a separate slide within this slide. And once you have everything, go ahead for the management approval and then buy the solution. Take the training, give it to your juniors as well as seniors. Well, it sounds very straightforward that okay, once we define everything, we go and evaluate them, take the training, and give it to the junior. But each of these tasks has lots of macro level and mini level processes because in order to develop the entire division within your company, these are not just one-liner tasks. These are not just tasks which can be fulfilled within 2 3 days and all. It takes a lot of time. Because of the time limitation, I'm just explaining them what all you should do. So if you're confused about any of the particular tasks in detail how you should do it, then you can separately ask me and I can definitely let you know. So once you have everything, once you finalize the solution, then you deploy the solution. Once you buy it, then you do the technical implementation. You deploy the solution. As I mentioned, you provide the training to the different stakeholders. For example, even if you have like Qualys or Nessus scanning solution, let's say your technical team member would take the training on how to scan those assets. But let's say for your senior managers would just require some sort of training, how to log in into the Nexus and see the dashboard and what the dashboard means to them, and how to find the vulnerabilities which are high, low, and how to do the filtering. So those kind of training. So different stakeholders will require different training, and then you can perform the scheduling as I mentioned, like high priority assets. If you decide to scan them on every 30 days, then you should perform that scheduling. So even if you are away, then necessary start scanning on every 30 days and all. So that scheduling should dependent upon how high, low, and medium assets you have, and based on that. Then you assess various stakeholders in the remediation. So once you get the report, then you disseminate those reports to development team manager, team manager, network team manager. And if they don't know how to patch this, then most of the cases they will know how to patch this, because these scanners will come with the results that tells you should apply this patch or this workaround. But even if they don't know, then you can go ahead and assist them, because you know from the very security point of view how things can be attacked, so how it should be protected. Then you can collaborate and communicate with transparently with the IT and security teams on identified vulnerabilities and remediation. So it's again transparent communication and coordinate with them. You have to work as a supported team member. You have to work with them in order to remediate the vulnerabilities. Some things that they don't know, some things that you don't know, but it's always a joint operation, and you can come up with a better decision when you work with the people, right? So once you have everything in place, let's say vulnerability management program is in place, you are scanning on 6 months and everything, you are operating. So now it comes to the operating and maintaining maintenance. So maintain the ongoing operation, measure the effectiveness. Let's say after 1 year, whatever goals you have decided, are you meeting those goals? Are there any number of reduced vulnerabilities? Are there any number of dollars that you saved by implementing this vulnerability management solution? So you have to scale that kind of assessment process, and you have to identify whether your vulnerability management program is mature enough, and does it provide effectiveness or not. And you can constantly review the the program output with the stakeholders code. For example, before 1 year ago, when you implemented the program, your stakeholders had only one goal, to reduce the number of vulnerabilities. Now the number of vulnerabilities have been reduced. Now your stakeholders in the next year sets uh, they set different goals for the vulnerability management program. Now you would have to tweak your vulnerability management program in such a way that now it should fulfill the different goals of the stakeholder. So in the first year, let's say they were trying to reduce the number of vulnerabilities. You achieved that. Good luck. And in the next year, your stakeholders decide a new goal, that is to provide the IT hygiene of the entire infrastructure. For example, IT hygiene means how things look from the holistic point of view, and which department is weak and which department is strong, and how frequently we get vulnerabilities in X department, and how frequently we don't get vulnerabilities in X department. So those kind of different goals they can set. There are range of goals, and then you would have to tweak again your program for the next year in order to do those kind of things. But at the same time, it should not affect the original goals which were decided in the first year, right? So it's like having one thing and having one more thing, and in going in the third year, you should have the third thing, including first thing and second thing, right? So then you can suggest the improvement points and the best practices, because I follow vulnerability management keyword on the Twitter, and on a daily basis I get so many best practices and tips and tricks. So I can take that, I can list down all those tips and tricks, and if there are any feasible tips and tricks which I can implement in my vulnerability management program, then I can definitely suggest to my stakeholders, and they would be happy to implement those things, because at the same time I am trying to match the quality of the vulnerability management, right? So these are the 4 steps of the vulnerability management program, in case if you want to build that. Okay, now I'm going to talk about some of the best practices. Now, according to me, uh, I built 2 3 vulnerability management programs for product-based companies, ranging from small companies to very large companies. So according to me, there are more than like 50 to 60 best practices for vulnerability management program. But because of time limitation, I'm just going to explain the main best practices for the vulnerability management program. So as I mentioned, people only identify vulnerabilities from vulnerability scanners. um, I tend to oppose that. You should identify vulnerabilities from penetration testing, red teaming, threat hunting, threat intelligence. Some companies do penetration testing. They think that okay, we have done the penetration testing, red teaming is not really required. But it's not like that. All these different activities have different goals, and they provide different results as well. So penetration testing should be done, red teaming should be done, threatening and threat intelligence should be. So you can identify vulnerabilities from all these different various sources, and once you coordinate all these various sources and put them into one bucket, then you have a holistic view of what all vulnerabilities are affecting to your organization, right? So what to include on your vulnerability management scope? So there are a range of things apart from what I have mentioned here, but these are the most important things that you should include in your vulnerability management program. So let's say when I mention about the ICS and SCADA, I'm not telling you to scan those ICS and SCADA which are NASA's and Qualys. I'm just asking you to include that in your scope, and then you can build the process around it, that how you would identify the vulnerabilities from ICS and SCADA. So identifying vulnerabilities from, let's say, web applications, APIs and database would be, let's say, would be straightforward. For example, you can just put them in a scanner, or you can just give those assets to the penetration testing team, and they would identify the vulnerabilities. But that could not be the case with the IoT, or that could not be the case with the Docker and containers or the ICS and SCADA. So these are the things that you should at least include in your vulnerability management scope, and then identify how we are going to identify vulnerabilities from code, how we are going to identify vulnerabilities from APIs, how we are going to identify vulnerabilities from ICS and SCADA. And then you have to build a mini and micro level processes around that. And then once you identify those processes, you implement them, and then you take the result and put them in the vulnerability management custom dashboard, which I showed you earlier, right? So these are the things that you should at least include in your vulnerability management scope. So I talked about the vulnerability management solution, different the scanning solution and or the vulnerability management solution. So these are the differentiators in order to evaluate the best vulnerability management solution. So platform support, obviously it's needed. Let's say I have one scanning solution which gives me the best 0-day results, but it only supports the Microsoft Windows 10. I may not go for it. Okay, let's say I have a scanning solution which provides me the better and average quality, let's say better and average quality, or let's say good quality in terms of, and that is the ideal quality of the vulnerability scanner, and that is supporting, that's not supporting the 0 days, but that is supporting at least 20 different platforms, including Linux or IoT or cloud, and I may go for it, right? So I want to have the more coverage in terms of buying the solution. And deployment options, I told you there are agent-based, there are cloud-based, there are on-premises. So you have to identify what is good for you, what is not good for you, whether you are okay to give your some of the data to the cloud service provider or not. And there are different scanning methods, there are vigorous methods, there are passive method, active method. So these are the different differentiators for the vulnerability management solution evaluation criteria. So you have to, let's say you have to take one vendor. Let's say I'm taking the Nessus, or then I'm evaluating all these points for Nessus. I'm taking the Qualys. I'm evaluating all these points for Qualys. I'm taking the next one. I'm evaluating all the points for the next one. Then based on that, which solution is up to the mark, and on these points, so these are the minimum points that I came up with my own thinking, but there could be some different evaluation criteria that I might miss here. So based on that, which solution is up to the mark, and then you think that okay, this is up to the mark, then you can go ahead and acquire that solution for the vulnerability management department. So how often to perform a vulnerability scan? So there should be three categories: continuous scanning, compliance, and on-demand. So continuous scanning, let's say there are high priority assets, so there should be continuous scanning for every 2 months. For medium priority assets or medium risk assets, there should be continuous scanning for at least at minimum 6 months, and this will be low, then at least 1 year, right? And there is a compliance scanning. So every time maybe you need to renew your compliance certification, or you go for a new compliance, then you should have a dedicated team within your vulnerability management department which should do the compliance scanning apart from those teams which are doing the continuous scanning and all. And that should be on-demand scanning. So for example, development team introduces a new application which holds a database, API and everything, and it introduces 10 more assets in your organization. That 10 more assets are consisting of few operating system, a few hosts, and two websites and API server database. Then every time when the new things are introduced to your uh, organization, then it should be scanned before deploying it to the public. So I'm not telling that if something is introduced more to your organization, then it should be scanned, but something if if something is removed from the organization, then also your vulnerability scan should perform. So, for example, let's say, as I mentioned you, the development team introduces a few more assets to your organization. Then on-demand scanning should be performed. Results should be given to them. They should patch the things. We should retest them, and then if everything is okay, they should go for the deployment, right? But what if there is a network router which is removed? There is a network router which is removed from the network. Then you should also perform the scanning, because you may not know if by something removing, it may open the vulnerability doors for other systems, right? So let's say if you remove the IDS or IPS, then it may also cause new vulnerabilities, because while you were testing the vulnerabilities before, the IDS or IPS were stopping you. But if you remove that instance, then it may go ahead further and access those new assets or access those previous assets, which may introduce some new vulnerabilities. So if something is added or something is removed, you should do the on-demand scanning, apart from your continuous scanning and the compliance scanning. Okay. Integration is the key. So as I mentioned, there should be a centralized asset database where all the asset teams should automatically update their asset inventory, and that would reflect the same in your custom centralized database. So if you reach to that maturity level of a vulnerability management program, you should have these kind of things. And not only penetration testing, but this is one of the examples. So penetration testing results should be displayed on the custom dashboard. So once they do the penetration testing, even if they don't write the report, but they should add all the findings on the custom dashboards, right? So at the same time, the red team activity should do that, and the security incident team should be also able to do the centralized to upload their results on the centralized dashboard. So integration is the key. So you integrate different things in one centralized dashboard to have the holistic view of what is happening in your organization, right? And there should be threat intelligence, right? So if you are going for a single vulnerability scanner, then it should have some threat intelligence feed separately, which is giving you uh, the idea of what new threats are being introduced in the market, and how you can take that and test your systems for more effective testing and all, right? So this is the kind of integration. So I'm only mentioning about three types of not three types, but like three factors of integration. But there are so many factors you can integrate into one solution to give the better output, right? So there are some best practices around the remediation. So defense in depth is the first one. So when to use this? So for example, there are things if you cannot patch it. Let's say if there is a 0 day, let's say your Nessus scanner was able to detect a 0 day, but the official vendor of that product hasn't released the official patch, right? So in order to, so how can you patch that? You cannot patch that. There are no workarounds like that. Okay, so you can do the defense in depth model. You can take that asset behind the network zoning, maybe application whitelisting, URL filtering, or let's say you put that asset in the network segregation, and you put the IDS IPS firewalls over here. Okay, so you are creating more layers in order to protect that asset which is weakened right now, because there are no patches available for that system, right? So that is called defense in depth, and you can use that when you can't patch the asset, right? Then there are official vendor patches. You already know that if you have some vulnerabilities, then you can go to the official vendor website, you can contact them, and they will provide you with the patch. There are workaround patches. For example, if you find the vulnerabilities which you cannot patch because there are no official vendor patches, uh, so you can do the workaround patches, because there are separate YouTube channels, and let's say there are separate blogs. There are tons of researchers who find the vulnerability. They also provide you with the workaround patches, and you can do some configuration changes, and you can do this kind of settings, and you can patch this as well. So if you can't patch that, I would go with the workaround patches. So even if I implement a workaround patches, because that's not the official vendor patch, I will still implement a defense in depth model, right? So first go for the official patch. If not there, then go for the workaround and the configuration changes, and also apply the defense in depth model, right? So as of now, we all knew about the patches of official vendor patches, and some of you may be aware of workaround or the configuration patches. But the defense in depth model is really important for the vulnerability management program, for the things that you can't patch, right? So I think this is the end of my session. But as I told you, vulnerability management is the area, is the division, is the department, is not an activity. So there is more to learn in this area particularly. So there are so many things. These are some of the keywords, and you can give it to YouTube and Google, and you can find more articles and YouTube videos and documentations around this. So best practices for the remediation, there are separate videos and YouTube videos and blogs around this. Integration, best practices in vulnerability management program, orchestration and automation. Sorry, I typed that again. And analytics in vulnerability management program, how you can take the vulnerability management program and define the analytics about what was there before, what is now, and in terms of IT hygiene, what is good, what is wrong. That kind of analytical research can be done with the vulnerability management program if the program is really mature, right? So there are tons and tons of topics around this, and you can definitely go ahead and search for this topic. So you should only do that once you have the basic vulnerability management program in place within your organization, right? So as I told you, there are so much things to learn. Okay, but you can start with the basics. So that basic is the step one. This is the vulnerability maturity model. So you start with the stage one and you reach to the stage four. So here you are managing the vulnerabilities in the stage one on the case by cases, but in the stage two, when you have some little mature program, then you are driving actionable insights from the vulnerability management program. For example, IT departments were having more security issues than the HR department, and that's kind of a data driven stage in the stage two. In the stage three, you do a lot of integration and automation in order to speed up the processes. At the same time, it also provides a result of stage one and stage two. In the stage four, it's transformative. Your business decisions are uh, sometimes taken based on the vulnerability management program that you have. Okay, because they provide you with the cyber hygiene of what is good, what is not good, and the holistic dashboard of how many assets you have, how many outdated assets you have, and all those things, right? So this is the kind of a maturity model. If you want the detailed maturity model in terms of vulnerability management, then SANS has a really good detailed vulnerability management maturity model. It starts with the stage one, two, three, four, five, and within the stage one there are XYZ activities, and for each activity, what should be done in the stage one. For each activity, what should be done in the stage two, stage three. In the second activity, what should be done in the stage one, stage two, stage three, and stage four. So likewise, SANS has a really good model in the vulnerability management. So you can go ahead and look at. So I'm just concluding everything that I explained. So what is the main problem? So vulnerabilities come from the various sources, from penetration testing, security incident, bug bounties, ethical hackers, black hat hackers, and open source monitoring. And it's hard to manage them all. Okay, because vulnerability scanning is just one solution, but apart from that, you are still getting the vulnerabilities from different sources, right? So that's the problem. And companies do rely on standard patches only. They don't explore the other options of configuration changes, workaround patches, or let's say defense in depth kind of methodologies and all, right? So companies don't explore other option of remediation. They rely on standard patches, and vulnerabilities come from different sources. So when I say vulnerability comes from different sources, that's why it is becoming more harder and harder to manage all these vulnerabilities, because they are coming from various sources, and there's a lot of information to process through from within a small team or a small organization. And that's where the vulnerability management program is the key to answer all solutions, right? To answer all questions. So basically, you have that program in order to prioritize vulnerabilities, in order to identify sources of vulnerabilities, and start patching and remediation of those vulnerabilities, right? So VM helps to prioritize vulnerabilities, for patching also has to determine vulnerabilities from all possible sources, right? So this is the problem, and this is the solution. And it also gives a holistic view of your infrastructure, and which are so within your infrastructure, what are the strong points, what are the weak points, what are the medium points, which team, or let's say which division is fluctuating more in terms of vulnerabilities. Sometimes they have high vulnerabilities, sometimes they have low vulnerabilities. So you can get this kind of process idea, you can get this kind of holistic idea about what is happening in your environment in terms of threats and vulnerabilities, right? So this is the summary, and that is why I wanted to talk on this topic. I wanted to introduce a new angle within the cybersecurity and how you can go ahead and advance your career within this domain. Okay, so I think that's the end of my session, and I have used these resources for this lab, and I think over to you, Asta, and I'm really open for the questions. And you can contact me also on LinkedIn, and this is my email ID in case you have any further questions that are not being addressed in this talk. So thank you. Over to you, Asta.
Thank you so much, Chintan. This was like really informative and very much in detail. Like, if a person is like really new to this area, they want to gain knowledge about vulnerability management. So this was bang on. And seriously, as of now, I have no questions from my side because this was so much in detail. It covered everything. But I'm hoping the audience may have any questions. So guys, if you have any questions, I'll share Chintan's LinkedIn details and his email ID, which he has shared in the presentation with you all, so that you can reach out to him, connect with him on LinkedIn, ask him questions. Beside that, you can put your questions in the comment box below below here, and we will be answering your questions. So Chintan would be looking at your questions, and probably he'll be answering through those replies on the comment post, and you can happily reach out to him, connect with him on LinkedIn. And thank you so much, and then this was really informative and very much in detail. I really appreciate that, and thank you so much for coming on my channel today, and I hope everyone will like it. So guys, please don't hesitate, post your questions down, reach out to him, connect with him. He's awesome. So see you again for our next session soon, and bye bye.